Aloha, Sia Monteleone, ma'am808.com, and I'm here at the beach, and I was hanging out with my friend, and she was asking me some questions about vitamin D.
What do you think is better, vitamin D from the sun or vitamin D from food?
Okay, great question. Generally, vitamin D that you can get from the sun is going to be better. And if you live in the north, it's going to be harder for you to get vitamin D. But if you live closer to the equator, it's easier. Also, if you live in a polluted area, like a busy city like LA or New York, the carbon particulates in the air absorb the UVB rays, so that's going to be harder to get the vitamin D from the sun in those polluted cities as well. As well, if you wear sunscreen all the time and you're covering up all the time with hats and clothing, you're not going to get enough sun. So a good measure is either getting your sun early in the morning or later in the afternoon, or you can do like 15 minutes to a half an hour in the middle of the day. The other thing is lighter skinned people have an easier time producing vitamin D from the sun, whereas if you have more melanin or if you're darker skinned, you need to get more sun exposure in order to produce enough vitamin D. Also, you're going to produce more vitamin D if you have warmer skin rather than colder skin. So you're going to produce more vitamin D during the summer months when it's warmer out and the sun is on you, as opposed to in the winter months if the sun is on you and it's colder out.
Does being overweight or having lots of body fat affect your vitamin D?
That's also a great question because yes, fat will hold your vitamin D hostage. It kind of holds on to it, assuming that you'll need it later, and so the fat tissue will trap it and hold it and not have it available for you to use to build stronger bones. So if you are storing too much fat, then you're going to have a lower vitamin D. So I have my clients strive for optimal body fat percentage for females. It's going to be 12 to 15%, and in my experience, optimal for males is 6 to 10% body fat.
Does your age matter on vitamin D?
It's been proven that the older you get, the harder it is to synthesize vitamin D, and elderly people have a lot less vitamin D, and so I have some strategies that I work with my older clients with that.
Does certain types of food help you increase your vitamin D?
Okay, definitely. So the first thing is that you need to have good stomach pH or good stomach acid. You need to have your stomach acidic. And the way to do that is by increasing your protein intake. And not all proteins are created equal. So you're going to get better stomach pH which is lower pH, better stomach acid to break down your food and absorb and synthesize vitamin D if you have animal protein as opposed to beef. In fact, studies have shown that pea protein in particular diminishes stomach acid, and therefore you're not able to absorb nutrients or synthesize vitamin D as well from pea protein. Also in studies, it was shown that meat has a high bioavailability, meaning that you absorb more from meat as opposed to mushrooms, which actually are a different type of D. Meat and liver, that sort of thing, has D3, whereas mushrooms is D2, and it's not as bioavailable. Also in studies, it was shown that saturated fats did a better job of helping you absorb your vitamin D rather than polyunsaturated fatty acids. Saturated fats would be something like in your red meat or butter, and your polyunsaturated fats would be like vegetable or seed oils. The other thing people don't realize is that you need cholesterol to make vitamin D. And if you are trying to take things to lower your cholesterol, like cholesterol lowering medications or even plant sterols that take your cholesterol down, you're going to have a harder time keeping your vitamin D levels up. You need the cholesterol. And one more thing, a high fiber diet has been shown to inhibit the absorption of dietary vitamin D. So that means if you're eating a lot of plant fibers and you're taking vitamin D supplements, or you're trying to get your vitamin D increased in your diet, it's going to inhibit or stop the vitamin D from going up. Now, fortified foods like milk with vitamin D added and cereals with vitamin D added had very, very poor absorption rates. They were not very bioavailable. Okay.
What about alcohol? Does it affect your vitamin D?
Yes, alcohol consumption does affect your vitamin D because your liver is needed to convert and synthesize the vitamin D in your body. So you really need to take care of your liver in order to have optimal levels of vitamin D. So by limiting your alcohol intake and also limiting your fructose intake, including high excessive amounts of fruit, you're going to take care of your liver, and then it's going to be able to do its job in making vitamin D for you.
What are other things that would stop you from getting vitamin D?
Okay, there are a few more things that hinder vitamin D absorption, and one of those is going to be gastric bypass surgery because the part of the small intestine that absorbs vitamin D is bypassed with that. There are also some medications that will hinder it, like corticosteroids, prednisone, that sort of things, and also cholesterol lowering medications, because remember we talked about we need cholesterol, and some other weight loss medications.
What is the vitamin D level that you'd like to see in your clients?
Well, in my clients, I like to see a level above 60. Now, you can be as low as 30, and the doctor will tell you that you're within range, but in my opinion, that needs to be reviewed because that's way too low. In recent studies, the higher the vitamin D level status, the better your chance of fighting COVID. So, so above 60 would be great, and depending on if they're an athlete or not, sometimes they need more. So above 60 or somewhere around 70 or 80 is what I look for in my clients. Thank you for joining us today on the beach here on Maui and listening to our chat about vitamin D.
Aloha!